Good morning, girls. In the last class, we discussed about the religious beliefs of the Chinese and also about their achievements in the field of script and science and technology. Today, we'll be learning about their achievements in the field of mathematics and astronomy and also the factors that led to the decline of their Chinese civilization. Mathematics. The Chinese numerical system was multiplicative. So the ancient Chinese, they followed the multiplicative numerical system. Now what is this multiplicative numerical system? Basically, the number was a multiple of the largest unit followed by the next largest unit and so on. For example, to write 500, they would write the characters for 105. So in the multiplicative numerical system, they had characters to represent numbers from 1 to 9. They had characters for numbers from 1 to 9, and they also had characters for tens, hundreds and thousands. So to write a number like 500, they would first write the character of 100 and then they would write the character of 5. This is how they represented numbers. And like to write a number 40, they would write the character for 10 and then they would write the character for 4. So this is the multiplicative system, multiplicative numerical system, which was followed by the Chinese. They invented and used the abacus for calculations. Now the abacus was invented by the Chinese. You all might have learnt about the abacus in your primary classes. It is a device. It's a very simple device which is used for calculations. So the Chinese, they invented and they used the abacus for their calculations. The Chinese call the abacus as Suanpan. So in Chinese, they call this abacus as Suanpan. It consists of 7 rods with 2 beads on each rod in the upper deck and 5 beads in the bottom deck. The beads are counted by moving them up or down towards the beam. This is the abacus. This is the upper deck and this is the bottom deck, and it's separated by a beam. This is the beam. Now to calculate, to count and to do the calculations, they move these beads. There are 7 rods, and in the upper deck, each of these rods has 2 beads. Each of these rods has 2 beads in the upper deck, and in the bottom deck, each of the rods have 5 beads. And these beads, the calculation is done by moving these beads towards the beam. This is the beam. This is how the abacus works. Astronomy. The Chinese calendar was a combination of solar and lunar calculations. Now we had already learnt in the last chapter there are 2 types. There is a solar and the lunar. The solar, it is based on the phase of sun. It is based on the rotation of earth around the sun, whereas the lunar is based on the monthly cycles of the moon. So the Chinese calendar, it was a combination of both the solar and the lunar. The months were based on the moon's movements and comprised 29 or 30 days. So the months, it was based on the lunar calculations. That is a month, it had 29 or 30 days, and it was based on the moon's movements. That is, it was based on the lunar calculations. Whereas, however, the length of the year was correctly found to be 365 days. So the length of the year was based on the solar calculations. And this is why it is known as a combination, because the months were based on the lunar calculations and the year. The length of the year was based on the solar calculations. This is their contribution in their achievements in the field of astronomy. Now we'll move on to the decline. The factors that led to the decline or the fall of the Chinese civilization. The Bronze Age lasted in China till about 750 BCE. So Bronze Age, it lasted till 750 BCE, till the 8th century in China. The Zhou dynasty began to decline by the 8th century BCE. So by the mid of the 8th century BCE, the Zhou dynasty began to decline. It began to fall. Many feudal lords broke away from the central rule and proclaimed themselves independent. Now there were many feudal lords. Feudal lords means a man of rank, like masters. These feudal lords, they were against the central rule. They broke from the central rule and they declared themselves as independent. The Zhou state turned into a loose association of warring states and led to the so-called Warring States period, 476 to 222 BCE, in which 7 states fought with each other. Now there were 7 states who were in constant wars with each other, and these constant wars, they destroyed the unity and it turned into a loose association. Where there was no unity, and this period of this constant war period was known as the Warring States period. These 7 states were those of Shu, Han, Qi, Qin, Wei, Yan and Zhou. So the 7 states who fought with each other belonged to these 7 dynasties, to the dynasty of Shu, Han, Qi, Qin, Wei, Yan and Zhou. These were the 7 dynasties who ruled these 7 states. Finally, the Qin dynasty gained supremacy by defeating the Zhou dynasty, and thus began the imperial era in China. So the warring period, it lasted for many years, and after the Warring States period, the Zhou dynasty, it was defeated by the Qin dynasty, and this led to the beginning of the imperial era in China. So this is how the Chinese civilization declined. So in this chapter we discussed about the Chinese civilization, about their society, about the occupations that they did, then about their arts and crafts, about their trade, about the architectural features, and then we learned about their religious beliefs and also their achievements, their contributions in different fields, and the factors that led to the decline of the civilization. So we have completed this chapter. Read the chapter once or twice, and the words to know are to be learned, and make sure you complete the exercises in your textbooks. Thank you, girls.